Hey everybody, welcome. Today we are going to explore a really cool alternative way to create animation. And today we're going to really dive into Adobe Character Animator. So Adobe Character Animator is a relatively new program that I think you're going to be pretty impressed with. Does it replace our traditional 2D animation? Not so much, but I can imagine that you'll be able to find some techniques in here that you find useful and maybe get even a glimpse into some of the new things to come down the road in the future for animation when it comes to what our craft is. Now, one of the things I want to kind of point out is that Adobe Character Animator actually uses webcam and sound data to capture and almost act as a miniature motion capture program to record animation. So right now I've started here on the home screen, so you can just hit the home button at the top. And you can kind of see I have multiple different puppets I can play with. So when you're getting started, these are really great to dive into just to kind of learn how they build them. And then what I've gone ahead and did was I've created kind of a little portrait of myself. And so we're going to use this character to do some animation using my webcam as well. So I have like the body, I have my right eyebrows, my eyes, I even have a little blink in here that will turn on. But it's really imperative that you all use the proper layer naming conventions. Now you may use Photoshop or Illustrator to do this, and what I've gone ahead and done for you is actually I've included blank templates for you. So these are templates where the folders are already set up, so you can kind of just put your art in and kind of get to working. So you can see I just kind of dragged my head in one, I dragged my nose, things like that, all into the proper folders, the body. This little plus sign is really important too. This just means this is going to be a single character. Every time you put a plus next to a layer, it means it moves independently. So for instance, if we look at the pupil has a plus next to it, my whole eyeball wouldn't move whenever my pupil moved. So they're independent from one another. But it's important that that plus sign is there in the proper format for this to work. So let's dive right in. Let's go ahead and create a new project, and we're going to put this on my desktop, and we're going to call this class demo. There we go. And it's going to go ahead and open it. You can see, hi everybody, there's our camera. We're ready to go. And I'm going to actually set up some stuff here. I'm going to make sure my camera and microphone are set to my nice camera. And then I'm going to go to edit and preferences real quick. And I'm going to make sure that my first mic can hear through my headphones, which is always kind of a little tricky thing in Adobe programs. And then also that my Yeti Blue microphone is my input. So I have a Yeti Blue, which let me hit cancel here, you can see. So I'm using a rather decent microphone. If you can get your hands on these, they're absolutely amazing. All right. So as you can see, it looks a lot like After Effects. We have our scene panel, we have our timeline, we have our project window, which is really nice, and our properties. And then you can see this kind of capture that we have going on in the top right. So let's go ahead and import our character. So we're going to do import, and then I saved mine under template blank, which I'll go ahead and provide these for you. And real quick, if you want more characters, please go ahead and check out oksamurai.com. This is one of the character animators who helped develop this program, and he has plenty of cool little puppets to kind of get your imagination going on what you can do. And we're going to actually be using his mouth shapes as well as his templates today, which I'll provide for you. All right, we're going to go ahead and enter and import that thing. Now, because I named these, my puppet, which they call it in Character Animator, my puppet's going to already be linked up and ready to go. Now, at first glance, you can see nothing is happening. That's because I'm in the record screen. If I go over to the rigging screen and double click on my character, now you can see my character. Now, in my character, wherever there's a plus, you can see there's a little crown. And if you highlight on it, that's going to kind of tell you what that means. It's independent. All right, so we have eyebrows. We have many, many mouth shapes. And if I click on all of these, you can see it actually pulls up like where it is and how it's linked to my character. So let's play around with the head a little bit, because we're going to start by highlighting the head and looking at our pivot points. So as you can see, my pivot point for my head is actually listed in the forehead. Well, I'm going to click and put this down to my neck, because as we know, a character moves from the neck. Now, I don't want to do the body on this demo, so I'm going to eyeball off the body here. And I'm going to go ahead and look at the different eyebrows, and you can kind of see where it's rotating from and pivoting from. the different eye shapes, and I'm going to just make sure that all of my shapes, my pupils for instance, are independent as well, and make sure everything's in the right spot. Once you have that set up, really you're ready to go. It's as simple as that. So I'm going to hit the record button, give it a few seconds, and you'll notice nothing happens. Now, just like in After Effects, once we import an asset, we actually have to make a composition for it. And in this case, we're going to create a scene. So we're going to go to the scene button, and you can also go up to scene, I'm sure, and add new scene. And we're going to call this recording 1. And when we double click on that new scene, we don't have a character. So if we wanted to pull our template in, we can simply drag that template to the timeline, and hey, check this out. My character is already beginning to animate as I talk into my microphone. It will read my head turns. It will, if I go closer, it will go closer. If I go further back, it will kind of read those a little bit as well. And we're good to go. So let's go ahead and edit the character, because right now I know I don't have much personality, but my character has very little personality. So let's go ahead into the template and kind of play around with some settings. So we could play around with some of the eye gazing settings if we wanted to use a keyboard or a mouse rather than our camera. In case you didn't have a camera, you could control it with your mouse swipe. For starters, I'm going to actually set my rest pose. And by doing that, you'll notice that we actually get better tracking of the mouth, which is really, really nice. So now that we have that going, what we can do, and your lighting is going to play a part of this, so if you don't have good lighting, it could be definitely a culprit. We're going to go ahead and play with the face settings. So here is where we can kind of play a little bit with things, for instance, like the mouth strength. I can get a little squash and stretch going as I talk. This can get a little funky, but that's okay. I can move my eyebrows together or independently. Let's see if we can do both. I can actually open this up, and I can even blink my eyes together. So ready? If you can see, my eyes are now blinked. If I do it this way, I can get independent blinks. So I like to turn those off just because if I want to do like a weird, creepy blink, or whatever animation I'm making, I can do that. The rest of this is just more like physics, like gravity, strength, wind direction. And if we were to rig my hair up, we could actually have my hair blowing in the wind as I moved my head and I tilted my head. That's all possible. But let's go ahead and dive right into how to record. So now that we have our setup and I've calibrated my set rest pose, what I can do, and it's as simple as this, y'all, I can first go to my timeline. Notice it's 24 frames a second. And let's animate. So I'm going to just simply hit the record button and let's record something. So it's counting down. So at this point we're recording. As you can see, the timeline is moving. And what this is doing is, you can see, I can see all my little twitches, is recording all of the captured data. And it's going through all our different mouth shapes and everything in the layers for our object and kind of capturing it based off the motion capture above. So at this point, I think we're good. I'm going to go ahead and hit stop for the recording. And you're going to see I have some movement. There we go. All right, so a couple of cool things you can do in here is, first, you can see the eye gaze. That's really cool. But one of the most, probably the coolest things I've noticed is if we zoom in, you can actually see what mouth shapes it recorded. So if I, for instance, don't want to start with this kind of D shape and I want to change that, I can simply right click on it and I can start with an M shape. So let's play this back with the M shape and go from there. So I say at this point, so instead of P, I have an A shape. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go through and think of a closed shape. So what would be close to a P? Maybe an R or an F. If we want to say point, that would be maybe F. Let's do that. Let's play it back. So point looks a little funky with the F, but you can see it changes it. And what's really cool is actually you don't need a camera to record. What we could actually have done is we can go up to the timeline and import our own audio and then compute lip sync from that specific audio. So if you're a little worried, or if you want to use like a famous person, or if you have a voice actor that you want to use, this is what we would do. So we would just simply take the audio clip and record it from that. And if you're ready to get this out of here, it's as simple as going to our export. We're going to make a video. We can make a video with an alpha channel as well, but we'll just do a normal video. It's going to ask us where we want to put this, and I'm going to just save it to my desktop. And it says, please press enter in the Adobe Media Encoder to start the queue. So as we know from future or past projects, Adobe Media Encoder does take a few seconds to boot up. And so, you know, a lot of people get kind of worried when they don't see their project within Adobe Media Encoder, but I highly suggest you just give it some patience and wait it out. So we'll go through the process here, give it a few minutes, and go from there. And it's kind of cool. You can see, like while we're waiting on that, all the different red dots that have tracked around my face. I found this is pretty seamless. And look at that. It popped up right away. So we're going to go ahead and hit the play button. This shouldn't take us very long to record. You can see our character. And, you know, people always ask where the future of animation is going. Well, this is a strong possibility. The better our cameras get and the better that our technology gets, you could actually see this happening for TV shows. I can imagine like shows like Family Guy and The Simpsons, who obviously have guest stars on them, or South Park, being able to utilize this technology very easily. So we're about 25 seconds away from getting this rendered. Again, it is capturing a lot of complex data. I want you to think about how long that would have maybe taken you in Adobe Animate or just simply After Effects to do. And again, you have to kind of weigh the pros and the cons here. It's not as detailed as we'd like. It is using that phoneme mentality, which, you know, not all of us have the same ah or o shape to our mouth. But it gives us a pretty good result. So here's our result. So there you go. And that is Adobe Character Animator. What you can do is you can actually add walks, you can add arm and body movement, and so forth. But right now we're just going to kind of focus on the basics on how to import ahead so you can, you know, kind of get started in this cool technology. All right, I can't wait to see how you kind of maybe capture your own likeness within Adobe Character Animator and the results that follow. Thanks, everyone.